Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to talk to you about shaking off fish, or intentionally not catching them. That's what I like to call it. Sometimes you might have heard it in some of my previous videos. Practicing for some tournaments is putting the safety on, and what that means is fishing lures without hooks or anything exposed to where you would actually hook the fish. So the intent for this is that the reason why anybody would want to do this is mostly for tournament stuff. So this might not apply to many of you out there, but there is another way to use this method as well. But the first primary way that you see it a lot, and it's very known for, is tournament fishing. Guys go out and practice, and say you got like 3 days or 2 days of fishing. First day or two, might want to catch some fish, see kind of what the size is out there, kind of get a gauge on what you're going to really need for the tournament day, and then help you, find better areas too, and to find areas that have fish in them. So that's key. Obviously, you want to make sure you find areas that have fish in them, the right fish too. So that's also another reason why I do like to catch fish when I'm practicing on a first day, at least the first day, sometimes the second day. Not usually the third day of practice, because that's the tournament's the next day, the following day. So the last day of practice, I don't like to catch the fish. I do like to try to shake them off. But what I'm doing the first 2 days is I'm trying to make sure that I'm catching the right fish and I'm locating the right fish. But once you do that, then you get to a point where you want to start shaking some of those fish off. You don't want to catch those fish a day or two before the tournament, the day before the tournament. Sometimes, typically, they're not going to bite for you on tournament day. Some will. I've seen some cases where they have. So I mean, it's not entirely true that they won't bite, but I have noticed there were some fish that didn't. I don't know. Just sometimes they will. Sometimes they will bite again. Sometimes they won't. I'm not willing to take that risk, especially if it's a big fish. I know for sure. I set the hook on one fish the day before the tournament, and I thought it was a small one. It ended up being a 5-pound smallmouth, and that was a fish that would have done very well for me the next day. I went back and I couldn't get that fish to bite. Could not get that fish to bite. So it wasn't done on purpose. I thought it was something small. I wanted to see what it was, and I shot myself in the foot on that one. But hey, that's the way it goes sometimes. You can't always know you can't always tell the size of the fish, when you're looking at them. Sometimes you can. If you see a big blob, it's got to be a big fish, right? But anyways, so shaking them off is another way to kind of preserve those fish. It doesn't help. It doesn't save you if there's other fishing pressure around, like if you shake that fish off and then leave, and then somebody else swings in and catches that fish or whatever. So I mean, there's a lot of different factors, but this is going to help. What I believe helps me when I'm doing this, and I have proven it to myself to help. Case in point, so I'm flashing this here. I'll show you guys this first. So this is a little head by Picasso, and it's I can't remember the name of it. I'll put it down on the bottom here. But all it is, it's a screw lock with a jig head on it. That's all it is. And you just turn it on in there like that, and you got no hook on there, so you're good to go. Now this is a larger swim bait. You might not want as large of a swim bait on there, but this is typically one that I fish for largemouth. If I don't want to be doing this for smallmouth, I'll put like a 3.3 on there, just a 3.3, maybe a smaller head. But that's how I'm going to practice for them. I want to see if they're going to chase it. I want to see if they're going to commit. Once I know I got the right fish, I want to see if they're going to commit. I want to see if they're, first of all, chase it, then commit, right? And then, when they do bite it and hang on to it, how long do they hold on to it for? That's the other thing that I'm kind of watching for and feeling for. Do they just bite it and then drop it real quick, or do they bite it and they hold on to it? That's going to tell me if they really want it. Now, that can change on tournament day. That can change hour to hour, but it gives you a good starting place, a good starting point on bait and an area. So just keep in mind, this stuff works, but everything does change day to day. Sometimes it doesn't. I've had cases where there are tournament practices where I would be catching them on one lure. Day one of practice, my first day of practice, and they're still hitting on the third day, which I'm not trying to catch them on the third day, but then they're also hitting it on the tournament day too. So sometimes it does go all the way through. It just depends on your weather and the water and everything, the fishing pressure. But you know, so this is a good start anyways. So this is what I'll typically do for a swim bait if I'm not going, you know, if I'm not trying to catch the fish. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll you know, if I don't have a head like this, I'll just break off the hook or I'll bend the hook over. And I'll show you what I mean by this. A lot of times I'm trying to break the hook off or snip it off, because when you bend the hook over, sometimes they still do get their lip in that. I don't know how they do it, but sometimes they do. I've seen it happen. But a lot of times what I'm trying to do is, and what I do a lot is, you know, going to another lure here. This is a black and blue jig, one of my favorites. And if you see, the hook is bent over, just like that. Now, some of these hooks, I don't know if you can see that, sorry. Some of these hooks, they're gonna break when you bend them over like that, or bend them over too many times. So what I'll do is I'll take my pliers and I'll just bend it back, and I'll put my bait of choice on there. Maybe a little bit of super glue to help keep it there, but the bent hook will keep it there anyways. So, and then I'll bend the hook back down, and I will get that hook point as close as I can to that shaft down there. You see that? As close as I can. I probably could go a little bit more, but I want to try and eliminate their lip from getting in there. I mean, this weed guard, you wouldn't think with this weed guard here, their lip wouldn't get in there, but it's happened even on this one. So that's what I'll do. And so many times where if I'm trying to find an area of fish, I'm fishing in heavy cover, and I get a couple of bites, and I know it's, you know, around, you know, the next day is tournament day, or I'm getting some really good bites. I just want to keep fishing the area, but I don't want to catch them. I want to try and preserve it a little bit more. I'm going to throw this, and all I do is I throw it in there, and they bite it. Same thing. I'm trying to feel for it. How long are they holding on to it for? Do they hammer the snot out of it? Or are they just nipping at it? So that's going to help me try and narrow down what they're really looking for. And I mean, it's like I said before, their bait choice is probably going to change by tournament day, but it gives you a better shot at getting those fish. And this is one of these baits where you throw them in the weeds, you shake them off, and you go back to them the next day. If they haven't been hit, shallow cover is hard to do because a lot of time it's easy to fish. So a lot of times it gets hit often, but if you can shake them off, you have a better chance at those fish. So that's another thing that I'll do with these jigs is I'll bend them over like that. Now you can do, I don't have one here right now, but you can do the same thing with crankbaits and top waters. All you gotta do is just pull the hooks off of them, and you know, you can and just watch the fish. If you don't have a graph, just feel for the bite, and you know, and see how long they hold on to it for. It's a hard crankbait, so they're not going to hold on to it for very long because they're going to feel that it's something that doesn't feel like a real fish, you know. So they're going to want to, they probably won't hang on to it for a while, but you'll be able to see how they react to it and if they hit it or not. The other thing to do that I like to do as well is I will keep a topwater popping bait without hooks in my boat. Actually, I don't have one right now because I broke one off before, so I had to put hooks on this one. So what I like to do is I'll have a topwater popper in the boat, and I'll have the hooks off of it, and I will tie it on whenever I'm trying to find that bite, because treble hooks. So when they bite it, they're hooked, right? Or they at least feel the hook. And 9 times out of 10, I haven't had any good luck with it, but they probably won't bite the next day. And who knows? I mean, like I said, that they just might. I mean, some fish, I've heard stories of guys catching the same fish twice in one day. I don't know. I'm not that lucky, so I can't say that has ever happened to me. But this, you know, at least this way with the popper, I'm looking for it again. I don't have it, but at least this way with the popper and the hooks taken off, you're not going to hook those fish, and you're going to see, you know, if they explode on it or if they're just waking behind it and they're just, you know, stalking it and not hitting it. And you know, you can kind of change up your retrieve or change up the color, or you know, maybe they just don't want it all together. You can do the same thing with a bunch of different crankbaits. Like I said, it's just a lot of times the hooks, when you take the hooks off, it might change the action a little bit, because the hooks, they seem really light, but they do add a little bit of weight and a little bit of resistance in the water. So I mean, it shouldn't really be that big of a difference. I don't know what that is. It shouldn't be that big of a difference, but it could make a difference. I don't know. I really don't know for sure, but it hasn't affected me any. So I mean, just give it a shot and see what you think. But so you can do that with crankbaits too. You know, and then heavy jigs. So here's one. So I'm going to jump back to the jigs here. When I was talking about, you know, bending the hook over. Here's one where the hook just broke right there, and you know what? That's okay. I'm okay with that, because then all I'm going to do is it's a little bit easier if your bait gets all tore up. It's a little bit easier to pull the bait off. You slide the bait back on. There's another little hook keeper here, right here. Oh, you see a little bit there. A little bit of hook, another hook keeper here, smaller. Another thing you can do is when you slide your bait on there, you know that's the bait you're gonna keep on there, your plastic, is put some super glue up here, and it'll stay that much longer. But this way, you know, they'll bite, but they won't get the hook. They'll bite and they won't get the hook. So, and less chance of their lips coming around and getting hooked in there too. So that's also, I mean, another really good way to do it. I mean, you could even just get your snips out and just snip it right there, and then not even have to worry about that other, you know, that other part. Not the other part, but you don't have to worry about bending the hook over, bending it back, just get a bait on. You know what I'm saying? So this is a little bit easier. Sometimes I just like to keep the extra little weight of the hook, because it does add to it. But that's those are my jigs. My crankbaits and stuff. So here's sorry, get back to the jigs here. Now you'll see. So this is my finesse jig when I throw around docks. There I've got the hook bent over, and I didn't have any super glue, so I just did that, so I didn't snip the hook off. But this is just my little finesse jig that I throw for smallmouth, and I'll throw it out, you know, around docks and stuff like that, and around cover, and just sort of over, you know, rocks and stuff to see if I can get them to react. So this is another one of those baits where I wanted to try and get some bites on, see if they'll crush it. I was having a tough day on some of the bigger jigs and some of the other lures, so I rigged this up and they started biting this. So then I bent over the hook and tried to get some more bites off of it and see, you know, what they really wanted. This was one that I did on Mille Lacs, and they come tournament day, they still didn't want this, but the practice, that was shaking them off left and right, which didn't even matter, because I mean, tournament day, well, you can go back to the video on that one, you can see that one, but it was a struggle bus for sure. All right, so next one, this video is getting a little bit longer than I was expecting, I apologize, but so this next one is something I've been kind of messing around with, because I love throwing a bladed jig. I'm sure a lot of you do, or you know, and a bladed jig is very popular all over the place. But the problem with the bladed jig is it's kind of like a regular jig head, you know, where it's got an exposed hook, and you know, so there's no guard. Well, so here's a bladed jig that I have right here. There's no hook. What happened to it? I snipped it off. So there it is right here. It's hard to see, but there you can see it popping out right there. So all I did is I snipped it off, and there it is hidden. Now I got a green pumpkin bladed jig that I can throw out there and get bites on, and I'm not gonna have to worry about the fish getting hooked, and I can preserve those fish for the next day. The point for this is to see, you know, like I said before, is to see how they're gonna react to a bladed jig, different colors and stuff. I'll do one in like black and white, or black and blue, I mean, and then I'll do one with white chartreuse, and then green pumpkin. Because you know, if they're biting one, I want to switch it up. If they stop biting one, I want to switch it up to see if they'll bite another one. And then, you know, but then I don't want to hook them, you know, if it's right before practice. I don't want to hook those fish. So That's another thing that I'll do to try to shake those fish off, to make sure I don't to make sure I can preserve those fish. So there's so many different ways to do these things out there. So many different ways to, you know, practice and shake off fish. I'm gonna be honest with you. Where is this? So I have here's a jig with the hook still normal right there. It's not bent over. With a trailer on here, you should be able to shake fish off of this because of that weed guard. You don't set the hook, you should be able to shake them off. I have done this so many times. I've tried it so many times. It's about 50-50 chance actually that you will actually be able to shake the fish off of like this without bending the hook or snipping it off. Sometimes they just want it so good that they bite it so good, so well that they get hooked, and you can't shake them off at that point. And a lot of times when they go and bite it, and they take you into the weeds, well, when they take you in the weeds, they're wrapping your line around their weed stems or wherever you're at. You know, for me, it's more like pencil reeds or pads, and those are a little bit tougher, so they wrap you around there. Well, the tension with that line is actually pulling that hook and doing a kind of like a minor hook set on those fish. And I'm just assuming, but that's what it seems like happens to the fish when I'm trying to shake them off with something like this. But so that's why I opted to start bending them over and trimming them off. And I will, so like this one, it doesn't really have that great of a hook keeper or plastic keeper here. Sorry. Right there. So I mean, it's actually you know, I say that, but that still is a pretty good one. I would probably add, if I snip this hook off, I'd probably add some super glue. But that's the main reason why I do it. Now I talked a lot about tournament fishing, and the reason I talked about the uses of this for tournament fishing mainly. Now there is another reason to do this. It's if you're gonna take some friends or family out fishing the next day or something like that, and you want to put them on some fish, you know, you want to find them, right? But you don't want to catch them. So this is another thing that I'll do, is I'll go out and I'll go and find fish the day before. I'll shake them off. I'll find some good areas, and then I'll go and bring family members out there, and we'll go fishing, and then we'll have a fun day. You know, so I mean, some days it doesn't work out as planned. You know, it's fishing. You know, some days it just doesn't happen. But you give yourself a better shot. So it's not always just applied for tournament fishing in practice. You can always do this for, you know, just for fun, family. You know, when you're taking family members out the next day. So guys, that's it for this one. Just wanted to show you guys how I practice for my tournament stuff and what works for me. There's a lot of different things out there you can do to practice to shake off fish and make sure that you can preserve those areas for tournament day. There's a lot of different things you can do. This is what works for me, and I'm still doing some more. I'm still working on some more techniques to, you know, shake off more fish. And as time goes on, you know, like the whole jig and minnow thing, you can still do the same thing with that. Just snip off that hook, and you know, you can get a bunch of bites on it and see how fast they react to it, how fast, how far they chase it before they bite it, they follow it and they don't commit. So you can do a lot of different things. All right, guys, thanks again for watching. I really appreciate each and every one of you. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you in the next video.